I'm David Allen, and this is one of a series of videos about the proposals in my new book called The Living Vote. Now, if you've seen any of the other videos, you'll know that the proposals include a parliament which comprises of 3/4 party members and 1/4 independents. But the electoral system that we use to get them there is also quite different. It's called first two past the post. Now, that brings with it some quite revolutionary changes. Doesn't seem like a lot, but it makes a huge difference. And what I want to talk to you today about is one of those, and I call it the opposites effect. Now, the election system we have at the moment is called first past the post. We have 650 constituencies, we have 650 elections, the winner is elected to Parliament. In order to make any voting system more proportional, it's essential to have multi-member constituencies, which means that constituencies have to be larger, and you have more members of Parliament elected in each one. Now, in order to maintain the link between the Member of Parliament and the constituent, that increase in numbers of members of Parliament per constituency needs to be as small as possible. So under this system, it's 2. So effectively, all of the parliamentary constituencies will be just over twice as large as they are now, and they will all elect 2 members of Parliament. The difference being is that in other multi-member constituencies in the United Kingdom, we have them all the time in local elections, whether they are borough councils, district councils or county councils. You elect councillors in wards or districts, if it's a county, and there are often more than one councillor per ward or per district, sometimes 3. Now, if you have a ward, for example, that has 2 councillors, when you go to vote, you get 2 votes. Now, the effect of that is if you happen to be in an area which is predominantly Labour, for example, then both the Labour councillors will win. The same applies for the Conservatives and the Liberal Democrats. Where they are strong, in local elections particularly, both councillors or all 3 councillors will be Liberal Democrats. That tends to create a kind of dominance. Now, if we were to do that in the national election, have multi-member constituencies, but where there are 2 candidates, if you had 2 votes, nothing would change. However, in the first two past the post system, you have 1 vote. You pick the candidate that you want. Smaller parties have a much greater chance of being elected because both first place candidate and second place candidate are elected. Now, the opposites effect is what this video is about. What that does is that it means that where you have a constituency which is Labour dominated and Conservatives come second, there will be a Labour Party MP and a Conservative Party MP. And the same is true if the opposite occurs. In the south of England, where you have Conservative always elected, then there will be Conservative and Labour MPs. Similarly, in Scotland, if it were a contest between the SNP and the Liberal Democrats, there would be 1 of each. And now, to even up the fact that one person gets less votes than the other, when these members of Parliament vote in Parliament, they actually cast the number of votes that they got in the election. In essence, your vote lives for the entire Parliament. Every time they vote, they use your vote again and again. Hence the living vote. Excuse me. Now, what I want you to do is to show you what this effect is like. Now, you'll see the maps on the screen now. So the first one we're looking at is 1997. That was a Labour landslide where Labour got a majority of something like 180 seats. And you can see that the red areas on the map are quite extensive, as are the blue areas. But the blue areas there are mainly rural. The red areas cover most of the large cities, and that's where the populations are. So, I mean, seats everywhere for Labour, a massive majority. But you'll notice that it's still very blocky. I mean, there are chunks of the country that are all Conservative, chunks of the country that are all Labour, and chunks of the country that are Liberal Democrat. Now move over to 2010, and you can see that the situation has changed quite a lot. The red areas are a little smaller, the blue areas are a bit bigger. The Liberal Democrats gained many seats because they won seats in areas they didn't even exist in 1997. So that was a change of government, and it was a coalition. Moving forward to 2015, which is when things kind of changed again, this then brought a majority Conservative government, and as you can see, in Scotland the SNP took over completely. The Labour areas, compared to that picture of 1997, are much, much smaller. And there was a small majority Conservative government. The Conservatives were much, much bigger. And then we move on to 2019, which was an 80-seat majority for the Conservatives. And you can see that the Labour areas are smaller still. The Liberal Democrats come back a little bit in Scotland, but you've got most of the country blue and bits of the country in cities and parts of Wales that remain red. No doubt in 2024, if you see this before then, that's the future. If it's after, it's the past. Things are likely to change again. But the consistency with all of these images is that the representation is very divided. You have areas that are completely Labour, areas that are completely Conservative. When we use the first two past the post system, where first and second placed candidates are elected, that changes everything. You will have members of Parliament from the opposite members of Parliament in every constituency. Now that opposition might be Conservative and Liberal Democrat, or it might be SNP and Liberal Democrat, or it might be Conservative and Labour. Something like 80% of our seats always go Conservative or Labour. But it evens up representation, and what it does is strengthen the constituency link between the voter and their MP. Now, whilst the constituencies are bigger, that really should lead to a weakening of it. And you have two members of Parliament, so you've got the argument that, well, one may not bother too much because there's always the other one to go to. But they're quite different. If you happen to be a Labour supporter, for example, you would probably prefer to go and see a member of Parliament who is of your political persuasion. Same if you're Conservative, same if you're Liberal Democrat. It just adds a dimension to the constituency link that doesn't exist now. I think that is a good thing. That is one of the major benefits of the first two past the post system, and in other videos I will explain in more detail the others. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.